when you've got like a situation we've got now for competitive 40k, which is just like there is a problem army, then it's very prevalent and it's very obvious. It's obvious unless you're an Admech player. Obviously, if you're an Admech player, then there's no problem whatsoever. Everything Admech are fine. But if you're a player and these armies are so obviously broken and so obviously dominate events, does that stop you going to events? Were you planning on going to win already? Because if you're planning on going to win already, you're probably the type of person who's going to buy Admech, right? You're probably going to buy Admech anyway to compete, or build to beat Admech. It's interesting because I've always been kind of against of like house rules, you know, like comping your own events. Now, we've done it a little bit in the past, but I was never a massive fan and we quickly moved away from it. But the idea of like comping your own event, but what I mean by comping is kind of like creating restrictions for your event with your own composition. So like having a format that bans or disallows certain units or certain army builds has always been kind of like a big no-no, because what happened before is like, first off you go, okay, let's ban Forge World, which we've always spoken about on the channel. Let's just ban Forge World because Forge World is broken. You know, it's pay to win, you know, whatever. It might not be, I don't care. I'm just using an example. Like, Forge World is broken, so we're going to ban Forge World. Okay, so we banned Forge World. Now Forge World isn't in the game. Something that wasn't doing so well because of Forge World is now on top, right? And in my example, which is coming from a 7th edition background, or 7th edition, like, past, is that Forge World was banned, but then Imperial Knights were really good because everyone was using Forge World to kill them. So then Imperial Knights were like dominating. So people went, well, we'll just ban super heavies as well as Forge World. So now Imperial Knights aren't allowed. And then Space Marines were doing really good because they got free transports in their formation, their Gladiator Strike Force. So they banned like formations. And it just kept going and going and going to some events where it was just like, you have to take a HQ and 2 troops and that's all you're allowed. Now, maybe we do have to do something to say to Games Workshop, fuck you, you're fucking shit at like comping your own tournaments and you shit at like balancing the game to a point where we're having to like punish people who have gone out and bought this army that's broken to a point where we're having to say, no, you can't do that anymore. I don't know if that's right. But do you think that's right? Should we go down, as someone said, this rabbit hole of actually we should ban things because we don't like them? Or should we let Games Workshop, in all of its excellent big brain moves of thinking this is fine, control the game as a whole? Me personally, I'm on the side of no, we probably shouldn't. And the reason for that is because it starts going down a rabbit hole. Is you ban one thing, then as soon as we say Admech, get out, stop using flyers, you know, everything else, they'll just start spamming chickens. And then we go, no more chickens now, we're going to limit those as well. And then they go, Admech actually suck. But now because they're not doing so well, Drukhari go, right, okay, we're on top. Now we're on top. And then we're going to go, right, let's ban the Blackstone Fortress Urgle. Let's ban Raiders, let's limit Raiders, let's ban Kronos, let's ban Talos, to a point where we're just on a sinking ship of just banning everyone who is too good. Back in uni, local store ran a small one-day event and a guy came and stomped with Knights, and next events they banned Lords of Wars and effectively banned that player next time around, which isn't fair to me. Trading card games and collectible card games already have limits like this. They have ban lists which change frequently, so when something's so obviously broken it gets limited or banned into the face. Yes, Goblin. However, we, as the players, don't ban it. The people who run the game ban it. Whereas Games Workshop should ban or, you know, control the balance of the game better than they are doing and faster than they are doing. But should we intervene? That's the real question. Should we intervene? Now, I think everyone kind of agrees with what I'm saying because it looks like we've got 69% said no on Twitch. Excellent. And 61% said no on YouTube. That's the thing. Games Workshop seem to have, in my opinion, a business model. A business model of let's release something that's kind of expensive and make it really good so people buy loads And then when they've bought loads, then we'll nerf it and make something else better. There's no ideal solution, but agree at this rate, the game is dead for a lot of people. Look at how many views have been lost on 4K content on YouTube. Only signs of a dead or dying game. Steve, I agree, mate. I agree. It is a lot harder these days to talk about like competitive gaming. Where was it? Someone said something like, when you start limiting things, it's like a serpent eating its own tail. You're just going to end up like going round and round and round in circles until the point where you've just got nothing left to ban because everything's gone. Wait for the field manual update. If there's nothing major, then homebrew it. Yeah, well, the problem is waiting for the field manual update, which is going to be, what, December earliest? For a big FAQ, if they do it on time. It's just a long time to wait, right? It's been like 4 months, maybe, if not longer. Should we step in as players, as a community, you know? Not the Warhammer community that Games Workshop made, because that's not a community. That's a mouthpiece for a multi-million-pound business. But as the Warhammer community, the people who play the game, should we step up and be like, we decide what is allowed? Personally, I think no, and I think a lot of people agree. You know, 75% on Twitch, or 70% on Twitch, 61% on YouTube say no, and I think I agree. GW needs to embrace the digital era and have a working app that can make changes on the fly to make sure things stay balanced. Sell the codexes for fluff. I agree, yeah, because the fact that the codex comes out and then it takes them months to write 2 lines, the fact that there's so many typos that they could update at the flick of a button if it was digital, but it's not. They've decided to stick with the book model, which makes them more money, probably. I still think that a more expensive subscription service where you have access to every codex is probably the better idea. And I think that's what a lot of people in the talking community, like myself, people who sit behind a camera and laugh at things and, you know, generally more boring than I am. Way less interested. So you only watch me, really, so you've probably not heard yet. But what if I would say, as a YouTuber with an individual opinion, is that digital codexes or digital rules should be the way forward. We're in 2021, you know? The planet's dying. We don't need to keep producing books. We can just, you know, have planet dying on the table and then, you know, use an electric phone that's probably charged by fossil fuels to look at rules, you know? Honestly, feel like Admech and Dark Eldar need a 4% to 6% point increase, and then the meta will be really healthy. I think 4 to 6% is not enough. I think we should be looking at 10 to 15%. The fact is, the problem with Admech and the problem with Drukhari is that they have so much stuff. The problem with Admech is you have so much stuff that has so many buffs that they can rely on, which makes them broken, you know, makes them super strong. You can make Admech super defensible and super killy. So it looks like people don't want to ban or limit stuff. As someone said, how many people who voted no play Admech? Do you play Admech? It kind of, the more that they do this thing where they go, here's a really good codex that's just come out, and here's a really good unit that's £60, and we limited flyers so much, but now you can still take 6. You can still take 6, which is enough because they're so cheap. It just kills the interest in the game, because it's just like, it doesn't matter what tournament you go to, they're just going to win. They won 3 events this weekend, just gone. You know, they won mine, they won Glasshammer, and they won something else. The LGT was won by Malik. That was won by Admech. What other event hasn't been run by Admech in a while now? Orc Buggies are another one. They probably need banning as well if we're going to ban stuff. You know? The fact is that Admech is so prominent. Admech and Drukhari and Iron Hands are so prominent that I've run 2 tournaments now in the past, like, what, month and a half? And there was no Tyrannid and no Tau players in 50-man events. So that's less than 1 in 50 of mine. It's less than 1 in 100 that you'll play. There is a Tyrannid or Admech player in my events. Less than 1 in 100 chance you'll play one. Does that not tell you what's the problem with 40k? Does that not say a lot? 2 events, nearly 100 players, not 1 Tau, not 1 Tyrannid. Not even 1 registered. Not even like I had one and then they dropped out. Not 1 person registered with those armies. Just, they've released like the Thousand Suns and Grey Knights after Admech, after Drukhari, right? And the Grey Knights are good if you have one particular list. The entire codex isn't as overly tuned because one list is really good and that's about it. After that, it's kind of like anyone's game. Who knows? With Thousand Suns, they like have play and they are really strong. And they have multiple units that also work, right? But they don't feel broken. Now, they feel broken against some armies, like if you're playing Necrons or playing against Custodes. They don't deal with mortal wounds very well. But against other 9th edition codexes, they feel very well balanced, in my opinion. Maybe you disagree, let me know in the chat, or let me know in the comments down below. But they've released these ones, which feel like good in terms of balance, but then they have Admech, which was released 6 months before, which is still dominating, which can still beat these Thousand Suns and Grey Knights players. I've got a few different spicy builds in my Dusty Box, and that's the thing. So the Thousand Suns book, in my opinion, is very similar on the same level as Death Guard. Death Guard are a book that are quite strong, relatively strong, and in the right hands they are devastating. But they don't feel broken, they feel annoying, which is kind of what you want. You don't want somebody to feel broken, you want an army to feel annoying. And the reason it feels annoying is because it's quite strong. You can deal with it, you can deal with annoying. If something's annoying you on your arm, you can scratch it off or flick it off or get rid of it. But if it's broken, your arm's broken, you can't do anything about it, you know? And I think that's what we want. And then you look at the Templar book. The Templar book feels strong, but it also has some really big drawbacks, you know? The Vows, for example. The Vows all have a drawback, and you choose them before the game starts, which is amazing. That's really strong. But they also all have a negative. And they all have some good stratagems, but the most problematic one got nerfed, such as Devout Push. Now, that only lets you make a normal move rather than just move 3 inches, which means you can't pile into combat for free. But they have a lot of cool stratagems which are quite good, and it makes Space Marines seem quite good, and Helbrecht is quite good. But notice that I said quite good. I didn't say obnoxious. I didn't say broken. Now, maybe in the right hands, Black Templars are going to be quite broken. But when an army is broken or quite broken in everybody's hands, no matter the skill level, maybe there's an issue. Maybe we've got an issue on our hands. And we've had this issue for quite a while, and it's rather annoying. So to go full circle to the original point, maybe the fact that armies that are really doing really well is annoying, is driving people away from the competitive community, such as buying tickets for tournaments, and maybe it's driving them away from watching videos on YouTube about the competitive stuff. We went full circle. I think that was the entire point I had to make.